In 2006, I was distributing leaflets and stickers. Yeah, I was 12 then. So my whole life I lived with Lukashenko as the president of Belarus.
This is a story of Piotr's fight for his rights. Piotr has been a volunteer of Students for Liberty for many years. He has been protesting against the Lukashenko government long before Belarus protest appeared in the mainstream media in the summer of 2020. He was born in Belarus and wants to live in Belarus as a free individual. Unfortunately, the regime is not making it very easy or even possible for him.
During the World War II, it was the most destroyed country of the Soviet Union. And the public opinion or the civic society or whatever was very quiet. So because they didn't have a diaspora, they did not have dissidents from the communist regime. So the country was basically not known.
Lukashenko was considered to be the savior of Belarus when he came to power in 1994. The country was given its independence with the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Its economy was crippling under the open market economy. They were thrown into the unknown. The country was convinced that they needed a strong leader.
Lukashenko was a dough farmer, a chairman or president, whatever the world, of a collective farm in Belarus. And in '94, he was campaigning for a president coming from nowhere. Nobody basically had any idea how this guy, managed to some public attention. I believe, he was supported by Kremlin, and his competitors were former Communist Party heads of the autonomous Republic of the Soviet Union called Belarus. Besides the anti-corruption, he had another agenda, and if I can formulate what he basically told the public, he basically said, we will continue our own way, we will not change the system, we will have central planning, and nobody will get poor like the Polish folks, they're just behind the border, and all of them were poor. So we will continue this central planning way. In '96, Lukashenko launched a referendum on a constitutional change, which basically gave him the power or the right to become a president, not for life, but more times than it used to be accepted by the previous constitution.
So you can imagine how it could affect different aspects of people's lives, some economic goods, and going to some just basic rights like freedom of expression or freedom of speech.
Lukashenko's rule is not only suppressing different voices, it also eliminates them. Maybe you go out to buy some bread for you and your family, and you come back 15 days later. Maybe you are in exile waiting for your assassination by the government. But most importantly, he's also eliminating the protesters.
And every Saturday there is an attempt to organize a women's march. So I was charged of taking part in an unauthorized protest, which is very popular now, also which is popular, and I was charged of disorderly conduct and also of failing to follow a sort of a lawful order of a policeman. And I spent 10 days in prison before I spent 14 and 12. Yeah. Laying on a bed or laying on the floor without a blanket. It's not funny. Without books, without anything to do.
For the time being, they have detained about 30,000 young individuals and women. And only 1,000 of them were convicted of something, like, protesting, unallowed or not permitted street rally. They have been beating on the street. two individuals died, and two young boys, one 30, the other one 28. They died this week. So you have Lukashenko staying in charge of the country, backed by the Russians. And what he's doing there, he's actually staging a civil war, with the difference that it is him who has the guns. So the opposition, of those who disagree with Lukashenko, they have the moral backing of the leaders who fled to Poland and neighboring Baltic countries, but they don't seem to have a backing, from any country or any institution or any union from around the globe. What happened in Belarus is that you didn't have any privatization. So there was an effort to maintain everything as a government structure, which basically means 95.5% at the beginning of the 90s of the enterprises were government owned. The public interest is presented by Lukashenko's friends, which explains his first grip on power, and second, his success. Now it's very difficult to replace him. So the rest of the 50%, of the 100%, are most often either friends of Lukashenko or friends of Putin, of Russia.
But there was a tipping point for them and for him.
Particular wave protest is that violence that the government used after the election, like during the first nights after the election, when they were torturing people, beating them to death. Some people are still missing, and around 8 confirmed death. Yeah, it was better than for those who suffered on the 9th, on the 10th, on the 11th of August, people who were just raped with batons, and kept in a room 5 square meters without water for days, without a place to even sit. So no sleep. People had to sleep in shifts, no food, almost no water. People just passing out there without air to breathe, without any information from outside, and being sometimes brought out of the cells to the corridors, to the halls, and stripped naked and beaten by the prison guards for a few days, for a few nights in row. So we got to the hospital, and with serious stuff, some brain injuries, I was put in a solitary confinement in my last arrest. I was beaten by lice in the last 3 arrests. Deprived of sleep, so they keep the lights on for the whole night. They don't give you mattresses, blankets. Sometimes, like, I had to sleep on the table or on a bench. No books. I mean, so this is not a very Western style prison. So something that a person can imagine in their head.
And he does not feel safe still.
Do you feel safe where you are right now?
Not really, actually. I'm not really.
After several days, he was released from prison. When we interviewed him, he was hiding. Since then, the police have found him and arrested him again. He is not a dreamer, not anymore at least. He wants to see change in his country. All of those protests, arrests, and the torture, it is only understandable that he needs that change.
For me, it's obvious that authoritarianism is evil, and the state is evil. So it's not the only problem of Belarus. I'd say, that we still have a very strong influence of another authoritarian country, which has more resources, a lot of resources, a lot of territory. I was born in Minsk, and yeah, I lived most of my life in this country. I have lots of friends here, and I want a good thing for myself. I want to live freely in Belarus, and also I want to have my friends living freely here. And just yeah, I'm just enjoying seeing so many people getting involved in politics and opening their eyes to the truth. So I'm just enjoying seeing this, and also supporting this in the way I can.
The mainstream media lost their interest in Belarus, but there are still protests happening every Sunday. People still have hope to change the dictator, to have their well-earned freedom. Students for Liberty has been supporting Piotr and his friends' fight for freedom for years. To support them, you can call your country's embassies to Belarus and demand freedom of speech for Belarusians. Join us. Be part of this international team of freedom fighters. #FreeBelarus. Until then, sincerely, with liberty.